Commissioner Bettis is a little under the weather tonight, so we won't wait on her. Go ahead and call this meeting to order. I know we're about 5 minutes late. We'll finish 10 minutes early tonight. We'll call the meeting to order, and if I could get you to check your phones, even though there aren't that many of us here. Still like if you could check it silent or off, your preference. We'll have a pledge to our flag, a moment of prayer, and then we'll get right into this meeting.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Precious Heavenly Father, thank you again, Lord, for the opportunity to come together and conduct county business. Lord, I pray that our efforts will be pleasing to you this evening, Lord. Pray, Lord, that you'll watch over and care for those in our community that are in need. You know their hearts, their needs, Lord, better than we. Just mend and take care of them as only you can do. We'll pray, Lord, for safe traveling mercy when we depart here this evening. In anything we accomplish, we'll give you the honor for it. In your name we ask. Amen. Amen. Our first item is the chairman's report, which there is none. We'll fix that perhaps next meeting. Hearing and actions on zoning matters. Chairman Houston, if you'd like to come up and present, we have the one item.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the rezone request is Andrew Lane, who's representing Thomas Lane in his request to rezone 34.48 acre parcel from A2 to A1 to combine a portion with his adjoining property for poultry housing. Property is located in map 61, parcel 35, on Collins Dudley Road in District 4. Planning and Zoning Commission voted 6-0 to recommend approval of this rezone request. However, there has been some information that's come up since the public hearing that deals with the notification of adjoining property owners. I've discussed it with the district chairman, and I'd like to make a proposal that we send this back to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a rehearing before the public, so we can take comment from those citizens that are concerned about this rezone.
All right, very good. Is Mr. Lane here? Andrew Lane?
Yes.
You understand the request as it was presented? Okay. Apologize for the inconvenience it may cause, but what we'll do is we'll take Chairman Houston's recommendation, and I'll entertain a motion if the board would like to postpone this till I'll leave it at a further date, and we'll wait for the Planning and Zoning Board to identify that date. So with that, we'll open the floor.
I'll make a motion. Second.
A second. Since we're postponing it, we haven't entertained any discussion at this point, so all of that would follow in its entirety when we do meet this next time, though. So I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion to postpone? Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Chairman Houston, is that any no amendments or anything tonight?
So that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much for the attempt anyhow. All right. On item 3, statements and remarks from citizens on any agenda item. We have 3 items for your consideration tonight. One is consider an appointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission, discuss adopting a resolution declaring Madison County to be a Second Amendment sanctuary county. And then lastly, we have a few budget amendments that we'll discuss dated March the 2nd, 2020. And with that, I'll open up the floor for comments on any of those 3 items. Mr. Houston, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Lamar Houston, 18 Lincoln Street in Hope, Georgia. I come before you tonight in support of Item number 5, discuss adopting a resolution declaring Madison County to be a Second Amendment sanctuary city. I'm a lifetime gun owner and sportsman, shooter, and for about the last, this has been in the news for the last several years. It continues to grow as people start to clamp down on our Second Amendment rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution. Several months back, I started doing some research on how we would proceed with becoming a Second Amendment sanctuary county. And it said, start with your county commissioner. So I spent the last couple of months gathering information, talking to people, and was maybe probably a month or so of approaching Mr. Belster to lay the idea out and see if there would be any support. A couple of weeks ago, I had a discussion with a friend who said, hey, I see where Madison County is getting ready to become a sanctuary city. I said, excuse me? So started doing some research, pulled up the agenda for tonight's meeting, and lo and behold, it is on there to discuss proposal of resolution for a Second Amendment sanctuary county. So I come before you and ask that you seriously consider this. Right now, the Georgia gun owners, we have not great, but real good gun laws in the state. But with each election, you never know which way the wind's going to blow. So I fully support this resolution and ask that you also do the same. Thank you.
All right, sir. Anybody else like to speak on those 3 items tonight?
Yes, sir. My name is Polly Hanson. My family has been in this county their whole life, and I have too. I'm a retired police officer. I was 28 years. And I am a avid gun owner. I'm not a hunter, but I have brothers that were and a granddaddy that was. And to take away our Second Amendment rights is something that I'm totally against. I want our county to be in the red zone that we have for the Second Amendment. We're surrounded by counties and stuff that's already passed this amendment. And we need to have Madison County as a Second Amendment county. The counties that are wanting not to adopt this, they're the ones that's gonna be saying, hey, whenever it's time and they're in trouble, they're gonna be calling somebody. They're gonna wish they had somebody to call to come and defend them. I'm defending my property and what I have with everything that I've got. And I will defend it. It's something that was read into me when I went into law enforcement. You do whatever you need to do. It's like the House bill that went out that you couldn't take a gun into a church. Okay, and I know this is not Texas, but the guy that was in Texas that stopped the threat for that guy that was shooting the people in the church. They're in church to have a service and to worship God. They're not in church thinking they're going to get shot and killed at that time. And we need to have it so the Second Amendment is for our county and for the people in this county. I'm not the only one. I have been working with Randy Ryder that's in Douglasville, Georgia, and he's a big proponent of the Second Amendment. And we're trying to we was going for 159 by Christmas time. That's 159 counties. But we decided as a group that we would go for 2A for the USA, for the whole United States. We want it to be where our Second Amendment is not violated under any circumstances. And I would appreciate a vote for our county to be a Second Amendment county. So we can go red. Thank you.
All right.
My name is Chip Chandler from Carlton. I've got 2 items. Is anybody else going to speak on an item? I can just stay up here, I guess. I'll try to be under 3 minutes here. It's not going to sound like it, but I support what these 2 said. Just for the record, I'm the president of the Carlton Hunting Club, have been for 45 years. When I'm not wearing this radio, I'm wearing a pistol on my hip. When I'm not carrying that, I'm carrying a 260 Remington every day of my life because we got an infestation of pigs and I'm trying to get rid of them. We've trapped 90 of them in the last 3 months. So I got it scattered on the tractor, it goes on that. If I'm in the truck, it's in the truck. If I'm walking through the woods, it's on my shoulder. So I support their right. But at some point, I don't want gun owners to work against themselves. The same way I support your right to carry a pistol, but if everybody starts walking around with one in Kroger's, it's not really the good, best thing for gun owners to do, because it inflames people who are anti-gun. So I'm not sure what this resolution is gonna do. I don't think it's gonna make me any better. I'll defend this lady's land and this land. If they start coming for our guns, I'm gonna be right there with them. But have we got 2 minutes left? We'll try to comment here. Quick stories. Years ago, when I was a paramedic, Rogers Mill Road, got a call to a shooting. It was a 16-year-old boy had laid his 20-gauge shotgun pump against the propane tank. His sister was doing a cartwheel. I think it was his sister. As she's flying through the air, legs in the air, the gun falls over. He wasn't touching, he wasn't anywhere near it, and fell over and blew a hole through her thigh, blew a 2-inch section of her femur out. Back in the 70s, my uncle was married to a young lady from Albany, real southern, deep accent, real sweet. She's lying in bed with her 1-year-old, and she decides to commit suicide and shoots herself. That's what they said. He remarries. Years later, his second wife, he said she's depressed and despondent, and he's trying to take the gun away from her, and she shoots herself. Problem was, she had 5 bullet holes in her chest. 2 years later, my uncle's son, who was 16 at that time, the one who was the baby, don't try to keep up with the time, shoots himself with that same pistol. 2 years later, the older sister, who's 20, shoots herself with a pistol. That's 4 people with 1 pistol. Now, I'm not mentioning names down in Carlton, but y'all know of an unfortunate hunting accident down there. But my question is for gun owners. I want gun owners to step up and be responsible for guns. If there were a person that was available at the point in which each one of those people was about to pull that trigger, one case the trigger was going off accidentally, caught on a branch or something, and could say stop, that's what I would like them to do. And I want y'all to be the ones that do that. I'm not sure whether this resolution is exactly what you want. Thanks. Should I go on to number 2? Is that 3 minutes?
That's 3. I'll tell you what, we'll give anybody else a chance. And if there's nobody else, I'll open the floor. We got one lady here on the side.
Sorry.
And we'll get you back up and after this.
Maggie Schoberg from Isla, and I came a little late into this whole topic, and I'm here because I saw the article in the Madison County Journal, which, by the way, is a fabulous newspaper. And I'm not sure that I understand what's going on. I'm not sure why this county thinks they need this resolution. Do you think the federal government is coming for your guns, or what exactly does the resolution say? And explain to me why it's necessary. That's all.
Okay. Unfortunately, this is where you get to make the statement or remark. And
Well, that's my statement. I'd like to
Okay.
understand
okay.
what it is that people think they need this resolution for.
There'll be an opportunity for them to discuss it, and we'll try to remember and catch that.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody else here tonight? Mr. Chandler.
Second one, Chip Chandler, Carlton. The second one, I had talked to Brian briefly today about this, but, and it's talking about Tim being appointed to the board. But,
Yeah,
so,
he has decided that he's gonna reconsider it, and so that's
well,
gonna.
that's good. This really wasn't about him personally. If you don't, I'll just finish what I was gonna say, since it wasn't. It was just because it came up with him in our conversation about that. But, I think that you want to have a real mix of people on the board. That's really helpful to have the planning and zoning. And when I talked to you, John, a while back about were the board members of planning and zoning getting training, you said they could get together with Mike and get some training. But it's a really, really important job, and it's kind of underappreciated. They got to get a lot of flack from the citizens, even though y'all are making decisions. The average citizen doesn't understand that. They think that, board, they're gonna yell out. So, but back to this particular, or an appointment like this, I should say, I'm not sure that a person who is an out-and-out developer should be on that board. Not saying a real estate agent shouldn't be on the board, but an out-and-out developer, but it's not because they're gonna have trouble with, obviously they're gonna recuse themselves from their own decisions, their own development. But the world, we are human beings, the world is as it is, and they're gonna have a hard time turning their buddy down who's also in the development business. That's where I have the issue with it. So just something to think about for the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. And with that, we'll go ahead and move on into the business items here. And as was stated here, this is, would have been a District 4 appointment. So item 4 was to consider appointing a replacement for the Planning and Zoning Commission. And if I understand right, we are looking to postpone that discussion. Is that correct?
Yes, and basically, Mr. Seymour has reconsidered because of the things he's got going on and some issues, and so he's, so we'll be looking for a person. And I've had several people call me about this, so if you're concerned, step up and volunteer.
If you're in District 4.
You have to have experience.
Well,
It's always helpful.
it's helpful, but, you know, I don't want to take a long time. But one thing I was looking for is try to make this, some diversity in this. You know, we do have a lot of places that are development going on. You know, of course, we got farms and poultry and stuff like that. And right now, as I know it, we don't really have anybody that sort of understands the ins and outs of the, you know, residential construction and those kind of things, and where it's appropriate. Now, I see where, you know, Chip's coming from as far as talking about, you know, making sure that that person, you know, can deal with it and not be biased in that area. So, but I think we do need probably somebody that has some experience with that would not be bad for the board. So maybe it's just finding the proper one. And maybe it's somebody that's not currently doing that, and maybe they are retired from it or whatever. That might be a good thing. So if you know of someone, you would, or you yourself would like to, in your, you know, District 4, I would like to have someone from District 4. I've talked to folks in District 4, and they would want to be represented there. They want to be represented because of the mostly farming nature, but we do have a lot of those times where folks are coming in to build, you know, homes inside the farm area. So that's another consideration. So
I'll be glad to help you look.
okay,
Thank you.
so I'll appreciate any suggestions. All right.
And following up on Chip's statement, Ms. Linda Fortson and Chairman Houston and I, we've talked, we're looking at a very focused and channeled training for those current members. So if we have a new member that comes on board, it would be great to have that person included when we do this. So we are trying to get some form of, again, very P&Z centric planning for them though. So, all right, so with that, I suppose we'll entertain a motion to postpone this consideration for a later date.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any comment or discussion on that? Commissioner Strickland?
Yes.
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 All right. New business, discuss adopting a resolution declaring Madison County to be a Second Amendment sanctuary county. We have a draft resolution that each of the commissioners has, and
I apologize, I'm sorry, I turned it off, I thought I turned it off.
I think my blood pressure returns to normal. That's all right. You got a good volume on your phone. I'll just say it.
We got the sheriff.
What I'd like to do, and I haven't really, I probably should have given our county attorney a little bit of a heads up on this. What I'd like to do though, just in essence, is just to first answer your question, Ms. Maggie, about, what is it? First of all, the decision, and the board will discuss the decision to adopt or whatever action they take, but in general, what is a Second Amendment sanctuary county? What does that really mean? Just so we all kind of have at least an even footing on that. Would it be possible to hit you up like a drive-by? I can tell you what I think it means.
That's why you didn't tell me ahead of time.
Well, I just thought of it. I'm good at impromptu.
Well, all I know is what I read from the resolution. I think it's saying that you would encourage the sheriff not to enforce any state law that were passed regarding guns or firearms if he individually felt it conflicted with the Second Amendment. I did a little background on it, just trying to figure out what was coming. I don't know anything about the movement. One article I found said that was quoting a sheriff from Arizona who said he got the idea from the immigration sanctuary cities who have done that, the same sort of thing, which is similar cities and counties that have declared that they will not cooperate with the federal government in enforcing immigration laws. So there've been 4 district court cases on that now. 3 of them have said that the federal administration let me see if I can get this right. Now, first 3 said that the administration could not withhold funding. One last week, the Second Circuit said that the Trump administration can withhold funding from those sanctuary cities. So, and I assume the same dynamic would be in place if a county refused to cooperate with the state in enforcement of state law, that the state, or at least there would be the question of can the state withhold funding as a result of that. I guess, as a lawyer, I would just say, whatever the cause might be and whoever of what political stripe might agree with it, the structure of the Constitution might be more important than just individual causes.
So and understand that tonight there won't be a vote taken on this. This was just presented as an item for discussion. And for those interested or concerned that this is to be looked at our business meeting at the end of the month to either support, reject, postpone, whatever the agreed upon action is. But and with that, I'll open it up to the commissioners if they'd like to make any comment regarding this particular resolution or just the notion of supporting the Second Amendment sanctuary counties.
Well, I'll say something. And I will be quite honest and quite frank. I probably have not been as conflicted in an idea in a long time. I will die tonight defending my right, your right, my family's right, and my core belief that the Second Amendment is there for a reason. But I also have an undying understanding that, or at least in my mind, that the notion of our rule of law can come or go with the whim of a particular person or a particular body. You know, history taught us that we have fought those things and people have died for those rights. I I honestly don't know. Because I feel like I support again, the notion of those amendments. Every one of them. But for us, for me, to say, to give credence to this notion or this act of defiance almost lends credence to ones that I don't agree with, like the sanctuary cities. So I don't want to tell you to say I am, this goes to the core of my life. And I don't know which way to make another comment.
Mr. Chairman, in the resolution as it's written down, didn't it make a statement about what it is supporting basically the sheriff? We're trying to understand what.
Says, be it further resolved that the Madison County Board of Commissioners affirms its support for the Madison County Sheriff in the exercise of his sound discretion to not enforce against any citizen an unconstitutional firearms law.
So is that the essence of the resolution?
It actually goes on to make a little bit more direct support of that, in that it affirms that it will not authorize or appropriate funds, resources, employees, agencies, contractors, buildings, detention centers, or offices for the purpose of enforcing or assisting in the enforcement of any element of any acts, laws, and orders. So it talks to the funding of those actions that would be required to challenge the Second Amendment.
Okay. So it basically, the statement would be to the fact that if the state or whoever had a law out there that the sheriff determined that, or whatever, or the commission, that Second Amendment, that it violated those rights, that we would support the sheriff in not enforcing that, is basically that,
I
right?
think I might be wrong here too, but my interpretation as this is written is that you're basically leaving the discretion to the sheriff to enforce or not enforce. If he enforces the state action, then he would perhaps do so without funding or some of those resources, but it would still be his call to enforce if it was so determined.
And I may be putting the sheriff on the spot here, but do you have any statements or any feelings about this?
Well, it's kind of like this, if I gotta come collect y'all's guns, I'm laying my badge on the table. I'm going home with my family.
I just look at it as a statement of where we stand, if in fact it ever gets to that point. You know where we stand.
I don't think there's anything in
At that
here.
point in time, our rights have been trumped in.
Yeah. That's all, I'm just trying to understand what.
I don't think there's anything in here that suggests that you would override those laws or whatever. There are acts that may have been imposed on, convicted felons or whatever. I don't think that this supersedes that. I could be wrong, but I think this is just the general order to take weapons that have been determined to be of a certain quality or description. So
Currently, there is no law that this would apply to as well.
as far as I know, the state hadn't mandated that at all.
That's right.
Actually, they can wax, a little more wax every year, the last several sessions, they've loosened gun laws.
Well, again, I guess
The resolution says you're delegating it to the sheriff to decide if any law existing or future violates the
That's what I'm
Constitution.
saying.
Which again, the structure of the Constitution says that's a judicial function, not an executive function, so
So it really didn't carry a whole lot of weight, it's more of a,
well, unless and until you actually carry it out in some of these ways that in the immigration sanctuary cities and funding becomes at issue and then it does become a court case.
and then it does, yes. You just sort of on notice that this is where we're headed in case it does.
Chairman, I will say that, my personal beliefs, I have guns in the house, we shoot every other Sunday, I don't know a single person that doesn't care about Second Amendment rights. First Amendment, Second Amendment, in my opinion, help us protect all the other ones. Bill of Rights was around before the Constitution, that was the first 10. This was the second one they thought to put in there. As the resolution says over and over, there's court case after court case that holds our right. Like I said, 14th Amendment, McDonald versus Chicago, keeping right to bear arms, it's an individual right. District of Columbia versus Heller, same thing. It goes past the militia and into the individual rights there too. I don't know, I think, I said I wouldn't say anything about a personal belief, but I believe that fear has caused a lot of people to take action on certain things that maybe aren't really something to be fearful of. Fear in my mind is totally useless. It's something that hasn't, may never happen. Danger is very real. Fear is a little different. Fear is being used, I think, a little bit here. Just my opinion. Now, beyond that, Lee Allen is District 1 Commissioner, and it doesn't matter what I think, to be quite honest, but if District 1 wants it, or they don't want it, I'll be voting that direction. And so the next month, because we have, 28 days until our next meeting, I'll be talking to people. I know these guys up here do the same thing, and make sure we get the, what the will of the people are. Because we don't, I'm not up here for Lee Allen, I'm up here for District 1 and the rest of Madison County. As of right now, I've had 2 people call me in support, and I've had 14 call me or email me against it. So, like I said, it's kind of with Derek, he's gonna take some time to think about this and really see what the people want. But that's what I'm looking forward to, is actually talking to the people and seeing what they believe and what they think we should do moving ahead for them. So, but, and I hope everybody calls and lets people know.
No, maybe I'm out of order, but when are you gonna vote on this?
Okay, it's undetermined. They'll consider it at our next meeting unless somebody votes to postpone it. If
So
they
the
choose,
soonest that you would vote on it would be?
they're not doing it tonight, if that's what you're asking.
No, I wanna know how much time I have to discuss it.
I don't know, it's our next scheduled meeting is the
30th.
30th. The 30th, that's
All
correct.
right, that's all I wanted to know.
Okay, anything else on that?
I just wanted to mention, everybody's attuned to what's going on in Virginia right now. And what the governor's trying to do there. And remember, we were not just a breath away from having a governor with the same, that has to espouse the same rhetoric, so just
Can I
put
say,
that out there.
do you mind if I say what the Virginia folks are actually doing? And Gary, do you know? You know what the Virginia laws were that they passed and they signed? One, do you know? Because you kind of need to know them to kind of know what the background was. One was a red flag law, basically anybody that would be a burden to themselves or dangerous to themselves or others, those people couldn't have guns. The courts would decide that as usual. Another one was that public places, as in government complexes, parks, they would have their right to say individually, I don't want guns on our park, we don't want guns in our government complex, those type of things.
Mentally handicapped.
Yeah, mentally handicapped, which, could hurt themselves or others. That kind of falls under that one. And then, the other one was, you couldn't buy more than 1 pistol a month. So you could only have 12 pistols a year. And, outside of collectors, I've got some collector buddies that don't buy 12 guns in a year. So, these are the things that, like I was talking about with fear, I just really want people to really think about this and really, give us an honest opinion about what you think. Because like I said, if you don't know what the laws are, you shouldn't really say that you're scared of them or you think that it's gonna go a certain way. You need to know what people are passing. And that's what was going on in Virginia. Georgia is not that type of place right now.
Yeah.
And it could, but like I said, this is a fear thing. You know, what are you afraid of? You know, people in Georgia keep voting a certain way, you know. and that's
1
what it
million
is.
more people inside Loop of 285 than there is in the whole state of
This,
South Carolina.
this will not keep anybody from coming into this state and living here and voting. No, this will not stop that. It will not
Yes.
stop people moving into Madison County. So just, like I said, I just wanted to throw that out there, is all. And
Yeah,
just wanted to make sure.
and I agree that need to know, but also, you know, as Derek said, it's conflicting because of the fact that you never know when the right situation occurs and then somebody does propose laws and has,
Could go the other way.
as Tripp states, sometimes the difference in how things are looked at inside the 285 loop is quite different than how folks look at it in Madison County. So I too am going to look at, you know, what the District 4 people want. And I'm a defender of Second Amendment rights, and as personal. And in looking at this, what's written here, it is sort of a what if. Now, whether or not it's needed at this point, it's probably not needed right now today, but in the future, it may be something that we would want. So that's what we all gotta look at, you know, as we start to look at voting.
There's been so many arguments about militia, you know, people taking up arms, and that's not really what they meant, and all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Bull crap, that's what they meant. They just came out from under fear, they just came out from under oppression. They just had their houses taken, their lands burned, their cattle absconded. Yeah, they meant it. They meant that you should be able to take up arms anytime a tyrant comes against your country. And it can happen in a blink of an eye. Look at Hitler.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well-
did those people see that coming? When gradually, slowly, he started doing little things? You know, I'm not trying, that's not fear mongering, that's a daggum truth. That's the history. But, you know,
Hitler is true. I will agree with you on that,
Yeah.
Tripp.
Well-
Hitler was real. Hitler was real. I'm not a Hitler now.
yeah.
Well,
You're
if you
talking
look at,
Republican.
if you look at
I'm
the
not,
second,
I'm not a Republican.
Okay.
yeah, if I can
I
just
left the
make
Republican
one,
Party.
one,
Everybody needs to know that.
Hang
Since we're
on,
getting
hang on,
personal.
hang on.
Okay,
That's what I'm talking about.
No, you were
Hang on.
personal before.
I was not.
Hang on, folks. Commissioner, hang on. Hey, Commissioner Kirk has the floor.
all right, so I just want to make one statement, is the Second Amendment, if you go back in history, the reason that the Second Amendment was put there was so that just they had come out, you know, from Great Britain in a war, and they used guns. And the reason the Second Amendment was written, if you'll look, is so that that never happens again, because the people will be armed so that they can't be taken over again. And so, you know, we don't think that'll ever happen, but who knows? You know what I'm saying? And if you wanna say that's
I know what
fear,
you're saying. I understand what
it
you're
is,
saying.
but it's a
It
good,
wasn't personal at all.
it's a good fear. You know,
I
it's a
just
good
want
fear
people
to
to be
have.
informed.
So I think we've kinda touched on why this is, an interesting topic anyhow.
Yeah.
So many times these things come down to, what we perceive to be a show of support and perhaps a show of force even. Or is it an action, a deterring action? And so you know, again, you got several weeks to mull that over and decide if you wanna decide it in several weeks. Otherwise, you can push this, you know, and think about it a little bit more, without being too cute about it. And at least right this minute, nobody's shooting at us, so I think we're safe to at least, pause and take a look at it and see. And again, this is just for discussion, and for those that, wish to, share your opinions with commissioners or whatever, I encourage you to do that too. All right. Am I safe to go ahead and move on to
Sir, can I say one thing?
one thing, then y'all breaking all sorts of my decorum. You'll be kind of.
Commissioner, I'm sorry, but, you know, this law was in effect of the Constitution in 1791. You think back, what they done then in 1791 to what it is now. You know, I'm the person that's gonna stop the threat. I don't want nobody, I took an oath that I would protect myself, my fellow officers, other people against any kind of danger. And it is it's bred into me. I live with people that's had a sporting goods store. So, you know, I've been in this situation my whole life, so, but.
No, and I appreciate everybody's concern and their passion for this, and we'll wait till the 28th to take it up again. Again, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that, there are many different sides to any discussion, and that's the beauty of America, you know, so. All right. Item number 6. We have a few this is housekeeping for the commissioners. We have a few budget amendments that we need to go ahead and clean up. These are for consideration at the end of the month, but I wanted to briefly touch on these just so you have an idea of what these entail, and it will be very brief. And if there are any questions or whatever, feel free to reapproach me or Kathy Figueroa, our finance director. So these are items that, apart from the budget that was approved in 2019, these are exceptions to that budget. So, for instance, the first one was a grant for tire disposal, kind of locally known as Tire Amnesty. And we received $19,692.87 for the purpose of removing or disposing tires, and also the cost for the additional people that took that on. So again, it wasn't considered as part of our original budget. That's the net impact of it. State of Georgia hazard mitigation plan. At the conclusion of the grant, the county was awarded $1,922 beyond the grant, the original amount, due to largely employee participation. So again, we're just trying to account for all the money that shows up or is expended beyond what was approved. Yeah, it was a $5,000 safety grant from ACCG. We spent $4,985.56 between the EMA and the corner for safety supplies. And there's a $304.14 wellness grant, and that manifests itself actually as a reduction in the premium that we paid because of our participation in the program. Trauma grant, EMS applied for and received I won't say this is a regularly occurring grant that's out there, and it went toward the purchase of ambulance supplies. Rec Department special events, $350. Reindeer run, y'all remember that. There were some additional revenue. Senior Center, there were fundraisers and contributions that would show up as income or revenue rather. Road Department reimbursement for pipe and gravel. And we've had to go back and work with our auditor in doing a little bit better management in this, but in many cases, Madison County citizens have been afforded the right or the opportunity to purchase gravel or a pipe for their driveway, non-business, but individual citizens for that, and that's just showing the reimbursement for that. Recreation Department, we've had increased participation, and you see it was offset by the increase in the expense. Sheriff's Department, increase in overtime wages. They participate largely after hours in support of the drug court, and those funds are paid from the drug court. So $5,210 received for those overtime wages that were paid. And then this year, we broke out separately the wages and payroll taxes for the bailiff You see where they were previously coded to Superior Court, now they're actually building juvenile court. That's a cost that was broken out, so it's just a matter of transferring the funds from one facility to another. And then the last one is, again, as it states, the road department or vehicle repair maintenance funded a repair on a recreation department vehicle at the cost of $1,653. It was paid from that line. And then the last item is, each year, the auditor requires that we do that the sheriff submit a seized funds account, and you can see where the projected revenue was $8,000. The actual revenue was $39,150. They projected to spend the money they had, and they spent $89,348. You look at that and you say there's a disparity in the numbers. That doesn't account for money that may have been on hand already. This is just what was budgeted or accounted for during the year, and showing the actual revenue and the actual expense that occurred during 2019 on that. Again, think about it, look at it. If you want any more information, if you've got questions specifically, I'll take them, or if you want a little bit clearer information, go directly to our finance director. Go ahead.
Just a couple quick questions, and other people may have as well. I'll go backwards. You made a mention that there may be the discrepancy of the 50 grand basically would be again attributable to the cash on hand. Is there a balance? Is there a current balance of that, or can we get that?
Those numbers we have to request from the auditor. This, so for seized funds, and just so you know, the county typically does not have visibility on that till an audit is performed. So this occurs in the case of 2019, the audit was performed late. So there was an extension and everything was done according to procedure, and I believe it was about September that these numbers actually came to us. So I can request through the auditor that information.
And just the expectation of
Sure.
what it possibly could be. And then my second one, just for clarity, was, and I think I know the answer, but I think I want to put it on the record too, is that the transfer from Superior Court to juvenile court, that's the expense. It just says bailiff, but it was for bailiff services for the juvenile court. Is that?
That is correct. That is correct. And I'll be happy to track down any of those, or can you want to seek those answers directly, that would be good too. Any roads updates? Planner Gunnell's back in service. They are proceeding with several other roads, putting the pipes and culverts back in place. We're due 3 or 4 more inches in the next 2 or 3 days, so I've asked a number of people just to be patient. Trying to put a motor grader out on a wet road is problematic. We're getting there. They are working this, trying to work between the periods of rain. Are there any that you have them look at that they may or may not be aware of?
This Connery's got a lot of power. The rain just beats them up.
I'm not gonna talk about pothole roads, but
Yeah, we have a spot over a section of Jones Chapel Shiloh Road that all my today.
I would like to, in talking with our road department, I'm glad to see that in replacing some of these, pipes and stuff, that we've taken a little better step with putting in some culverts and all to hopefully the viability of those withstanding some of these type rains.
Yeah, the increased amounts of water and everything justified the expense for box culverts and things like that. The other thing is a basin study typically will give you a lot better idea of the size pipe that you need. That's being done on every one of these now.
Are they all
So.
replaced with box covers?
No.
Any box covers?
No, some of them were smaller, string-like things, but,
Like liner gunnels, that, I noticed the pipe was still in it.
correct,
They put
yeah, yeah, and it's,
New Haven Church Road, you know, which was really,
Yeah,
they
sure.
put nothing other than that.
right, there in several other places, so. All right, anything else on the roads? Urgent matters?
I see Tracy's here, did we wanna, I know you had sent out something, we,
Yeah, you know, if we need to talk about it, I don't know if that's something we can do here or not, because I'd like to see if we can at least get down to, you know, figure out if we've got this situated or not.
Hmm.
It's definitely important. I just wanted to, I think Derek was in the same vein, just kind of wanted to figure out what's going on and what needs to be done, and if we needed immediate action tonight to make sure it got done, you know, whatever we need to do, we take this serious as well, so, you know, I just wanted to make sure it's taken care of, is all. If Chairman has an update or anything new for us that help the situation, you know, anything, like I said, I just would love to, I just want to get it sorted.
As I sent you all, I'm aware that they started early voting today, and the concern is I believe the equipment was delivered Friday, if I'm correct. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, the transport bags, for all the equipment they were delivered. We got a call that morning, Friday morning, said that we'll be there sometime today, within 10 minutes they were there. So we had, 66, I think it was 66 boxes.
Stuck in the ceiling.
Yeah. And we, as far as when we get the equipment, we did not know. They would just call us a day, that day of, or the, day before, so we're bringing out the equipment, what do you do?
Once you take those boxes away, I mean, that's just the way the package, right?
Alan came over today, and he and David are working on some shelving for the room. Yes, we will have to take all those bags out of there, because once we do a test, we have to test all the equipment before it goes out to the precincts. Once we test that equipment, it has to be put into those bags, sealed up, and ready, as like they're being taken out.
We go into the truck, yeah, I'm sorry, we go into the trailer then, I'm busy today when I was
Right,
down here, Miss
once we have sealed them and got the election loaded onto that equipment, it needs to stay at our office.
What will be in that trailer? That's coming
The
in?
trailer that we're looking at, getting, that will be stored in things like tables, stands that we have, some of the larger transport bags that we have for the poll workers, because they'll have to be, that day, they'll have to take out, emergency ballots, provisional ballots, that paper that's 13 cents a piece, all that will be locked up and sealed in this case. That case can be put into that, to that trailer as well. And my understanding, Harry Carter is, they're designing how it's gonna be looking on the inside as far as, easily accessible to them when they're putting it out, but also that it doesn't move around and they can kind of tie it down. The bags that they're in, they will have foam around the equipment, but, trying to prevent it from any other, any damage or anything like that. My main concern is that once we test that unit and we load that that election on there, the big tabulating machine, yes, the bins are at the CID building. That, if you haven't been up there, that room is completely to its limit now. I'm hoping to get 5 more of those units. But once we test the scanner that sits on top of that, technically, yes, we're supposed to lock everything and seal it down on that bin. But by it being up there, we're not able to do that. Now, I'm still saying the election is secure on the scanners, because we have, I think it's 4 seals on that already. But it will be a whole lot easier on myself and my staff and Mr. Carter, because he deploys all of our equipment for us. If we had all this in one central location, because once I got it tested, I can mount it on there, and then they can, we'll have it there for storage, and he can come pick it up and be on his way.
With this, because we have so much equipment going out this time, you know, he's gonna have to go pick up those bins, come to our office. We're gonna have to place those scanners on, seal those, record all the seals, and then, you know, then he will be able to take out. Well, that's, you know, that may not sound like a bad idea, I may think everything's okay, but you've gotta realize, we have 3 weeks of early voting going on. And our office will be packed especially that last week of early voting. So how are we gonna get him in there to get what we need, and we get everything going? And, you know, not interrupting those voters that are coming in there and voting. The presidential preference is, you know, we're not gonna have a huge turnout, but come May, and especially November, you know, we won't, there's no way that we'll be able to do that. I mean, you don't want them to interrupt, you don't want anybody interrupting that flow of, interrupting the voters when they're back there trying to study on the ballot, trying to vote.
We're putting a back door in with that service.
We've got a back door. I had asked for a walkway to go around a couple of months ago, and Alan was supposed to be looking into that. I think the last we had talked is that he had a hard time getting someone to pour concrete out there, of course with the weather and stuff like that. That would help a lot. But for the March election, there's really nothing, you know, I'll just have to do with what we can do over there. But something really needs to be looked at for this May election. Not only with the electrical capacity in that room, but, you know, I would ask that you would go back and look at that September meeting and what I requested in that, an add-on to that building, and do that for us. You know, I just feel strongly that all that equipment needs to be in one location. You know, we're spending our time going up back and forth, getting numbers off of stuff and getting that equipment and bringing it
Do
back.
you have a quote for that one?
Yeah, I think around 40,000,
Yeah, that's
around
what it was.
40,000. But that was the only quote that we had gotten. You know, but I really think that, and I would ask that y'all would really consider looking into something that, for early voting this time, my goal was to put out 8 voting stations. With that station is a ballot marking device and a printer. Because of the room that I have in that lobby, because part of that is being used as storage, I only could put out 6. So they are really tight, and you know, I may have some voters that complain about privacy issues, but there's nothing that, you know, this is what we've got.
If you had 8, would it be more private?
Yes, but if we didn't have that part in the back that's all tied up with the printers and the extra ballot marking devices that we can't get in the other room, I would have them spread out, and the stands that we're using, I could take them all the way down the middle of that room, and then the voters would be voting on each side, so that they would be walking around, you know, to that area to those.
Could you publicize early voting in a different location?
I could do that, but we would have to, there's certain days that you would have to take care of that, or so many days before an election, that you have to publish that, we'd have to get it approved. You know, there's steps, we could do it, but there'd be steps that we'd have to take.
Well, just free up space, I mean,
Right, but I would have to find a location that we could handle that.
That'd probably be the only thing you can do in the short term until that May. To help
Right,
in
and
the March
well,
part.
I mean, we will go with what we've got now, like I said, you know, we'll address it, if someone complains, we'll address that situation at that time.
so you got early voting is how many weeks?
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
And then with this election, because there's a federal candidate on the ballot, we'll have the Saturday voting. Right now, like I said, I've got 6 machines in there. And some of you came by today and you saw it, they do look a little, you know, you're standing right there, even though, I don't, my personal opinion, I don't care who votes, that's your right, you vote who you want to, but I can understand that with a little privacy. And they're close together.
But I, just so I understand, so it's not ideal, but we can make it through March.
We're gonna have to, yes, sir, because at this point we haven't.
We just need to, we're gonna need some things to happen
Right.
May and going forward.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Like, I had mentioned to some of you, the state had told us back in December that if we were needing additional equipment over what they had allotted us, that we could request that, and if they had some, they would give to the counties. And at that time, I requested 5 additional tabulators, because I feel in November, we're gonna have to have them. That would save the county around $27,000 if they can get, we were told a couple weeks ago that if you ask for them, you're gonna get them. But As far as when they bring those out and I actually see them is another story.
It's the least the state can do, because they haven't been the most gracious
Mhm.
in this process.
Answer your questions and things.
Yeah. How many could you fit in this room?
Oh gosh, I could probably fit,
Let's get a lock on the door and you get security here.
yeah, we could fit a lot of them in here. I mean, I know at least, I could probably get 20 in here using those stands.
Just
Mhm.
brainstorm.
Right, right.
If we want
I mean, I know as soon as you put them in here, I mean, for my other job, I know sometimes there's some additional early polling locations that, you know, when you kind of set it up, you have to set it up and that's it for that
Right, and
area, but
and the software that we use as far as the Easy Vote system, you know, we've got that all on our systems now in the office, which, you know, other counties have used that in other satellite locations. And it may get 2 or 3 years from now that we have to, you know, have a large part, we may have to go to an additional, location. But we're, you know, like I said, we're gonna make it work this, you know, for March, but I would ask that y'all would really look into, before the May election, and especially November. And I appreciate y'all bringing it forward today.
Very good.
All right. Executive session, I do have, 2 items that perhaps need a very brief address. One is discussing real estate acquisition. If I can get a motion to enter into the executive session for those 2 items.
So moved.
Have a motion. Second. And a second. Any questions about this? Commissioner Kirk?
Yes.
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 All right. We will return after executive session. So do I have a motion to approve the executive session minutes?
Second.
Okay.
Who said that? You?
Lee. Lee said so.
I got Brian.
Lee and Brian.
Right, Lee, ever who?
Okay. Yeah, all those in favor say aye. It's easier. A motion to adjourn?
Oh.
We're adjourned. Thank you all very much.
All right.